The wind was cold that night, but the streets of Havenbrook were silent. Most people were asleep. It was just another small-town evening, dogs sleeping on porches. Lights out in houses, only the faint sound of crickets in the dark. But high above, the clouds far beyond human eyes, something was moving. Something watching. The Drathan fleet drifted in low orbit. From the ground, they were invisible, hidden by advanced stealth fields. Their ships looked like dark, jagged shadows against the stars, with no lights, no sound. Just silent hunters waiting for the signal. Inside the lead ship, Commander Veyrick stood before a large holographic display of Earth. To him, the blue and Poland green planet was not a place of wonder, it was a resource. And tonight, they were here for a very specific kind of resource. Begin Phase 1. Veyrick ordered in his deep, gravelly voice. Crew members tapped glowing controls. Small, needle-shaped craft detached from the mothership, gliding silently down through the atmosphere. Each one carried a Drathan extraction team. Each team had one target: human children. The Drathan believed children were the best specimens. Easier to control, easier to study. Their small bodies meant less energy needed to transport them, and if they resisted, they could be subdued quickly. To the Drathan, this was not cruelty. It was science. It was efficiency. The first vanishings in the little farmhouse on the edge of Havenbrook. 7-year-old Emily Dawson dreamed of running through tall grass under a summer sky. Her room was warm, her blanket pulled up to her chin. She didn't hear the hum. She didn't see the pale silver blue light seeping through her window. Her mother, Sarah, stirred in her own bed. She thought she heard a faint vibration, almost like a distant engine. She sat up, frowning in the dark. The sound grew slightly louder. Then silence. Total silence. Sarah's eyes darted to the hallway. Something felt wrong. She got up, padding softly across the cold wooden floor, and pushed open Emily's door. The bed was empty. The blanket lay crumpled, warm from her daughter's body, but Emily was gone. Sarah's breath caught. She rushed to the window. It was wide open. The night air was freezing against her face. Far above, she thought she saw something. Not a star, not a plane. A dark shape sliding silently into the clouds. Across town, 9-year-old Jacob Mills had been awake, reading under his blanket with a flashlight. He liked to read about pirates and explorers, pretending he was one of them. That was when the light filled his room. It wasn't warm like sunlight. It was cold, sterile, strange. Before he could shout, the light wrapped around him like invisible hands, and the next moment, he wasn't in his bed anymore. Inside the Drathan vessel, Emily woke up lying on a smooth, metallic floor. The air smelled sharp, like metal and chemicals. Bright lights shone overhead. Around her, other children were stirring, confused, frightened, whispering each other's names. The room was circular, its walls made of some kind of transparent material. Beyond the walls, she saw tall figures in dark armor, faces hidden behind black masks, eyes glowing faintly red. They were the Drathan. They spoke in a language Emily didn't understand, their voices harsh and mechanical. One of them tapped on a floating panel, watching symbols and charts appear. The other simply stared at the children, studying them like animals in a zoo. Emily sat up. Her hands were shaking, but strangely, she didn't cry. Her mind was too busy trying to understand. She looked at Jacob, sitting a few feet away. He looked back, wide-eyed. Neither spoke, but something passed between them, a silent understanding. This is bad. But we will not panic. Back on Earth in Havenbrook, panic was spreading. Parents called the police. Police called the state troopers. By morning, at least 13 children were missing. Officers went house to house. They asked the same questions again and again. Did you see anyone? Did you hear anything? Were there any strange vehicles? The answer was always the same. No, nothing. Only one old man claimed he'd seen something. I was out feeding the horses, he said, and the stars, moved. Not all of them, just a few. Slid across. The sky real slow, then they were gone. Most didn't believe him, but Sarah Dawson believed. She remembered the shadow in the clouds. She remembered the sound that wasn't quite sound, and she remembered the look on her daughter's face in the last dream she'd had, Emily smiling. Not in fear, not in joy. Something else. The Drathan miscalculation in the alien command chamber. Commander Varick reviewed the reports. Specimen secured, a crew member said. Minimal resistance, no casualties. All targets show standard life readings. Good, Varick replied. Prepare them for transport to the testing sector. He turned away, satisfied. In his mind, the mission was already a success. The humans were weaker than expected. The children had no weapons, no defenses. He didn't notice the small details. He didn't notice how some of the children were whispering to each other when they thought the guards weren't looking. He didn't notice the way Jacob's eyes studied the control panels every time a door opened. He didn't notice Emily memorizing the layout of the corridors as they were moved. The Drathan had dealt with many species. Some cried, some begged, some fought until they were crushed, but these children didn't fit any category. The quiet. Before the storm hours passed, the ship moved farther from Earth, deep into the black ocean of space. The children were given strange food, soft cubes that tasted like nothing. They were given water in smooth, transparent spheres. Jacob pretended to eat. Emily did too. They didn't trust the food. The guards never spoke to them except to bark. Orders in a language they didn't know. But the children noticed something important. 2 guards, always at the same positions, always tapping the same sequence to open the cell door. By the 3rd time, Jacob could repeat the motion in his head. Tap, swipe, tap, tap, hold. And Emily. Emily had already counted how many steps it was from their cell to the hallway junction. They didn't know it yet, but in those first hours, they were already building a plan. On the bridge, Varick stood at the front of the Drathan bridge, watching the planet shrink into the distance. He allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Another mission completed. Another set of specimens for the labs. In his mind, humans were nothing special, primitive, predictable. But deep down, an unease stirred something he couldn't name. He pushed it aside. After all, what could a group of children possibly do? Earth responds. By the 2nd day, Havenbrook was on every news channel. The story spread across the country. Mysterious disappearances, no trace left behind. Security cameras showing static at the exact moment children vanished. The military got involved. Satellites scanned the area for unusual energy signatures. They found nothing except one anomaly, a strange distortion high above the atmosphere. Too high for weather, too controlled to be natural. It wasn't enough to prove anything. But for a few people in the defense network, it was enough to suspect. This was not human work. In the shadows of the ship, Emily lay awake in the dim light of the cell. Jacob was beside her, whispering so quietly the other kids couldn't hear. I think I know how the doors work, he said. Emily didn't answer right away. She was watching the guards through the transparent wall. They're slow, she murmured finally. They think we're toys. Jacob nodded. Good. And for the first time since they were taken, Emily smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It wasn't a scared smile. It was the smile of someone who had decided this will not end the way they think it will. The Drathan ship moved silently through the cold void. Stars drifted slowly past the viewing glass on the bridge, but no one admired them. This was not a voyage of beauty, it was a hunt. And in the cargo hold, the prey was waiting. Commander Varick stood with his arms behind his back, reviewing the status screens. Everything appeared perfect: power stable, security systems armed, life support optimal. The human specimens were confined. No threats. At least, that was what the reports claimed. Restless shadows in the holding cell. Emily Dawson sat cross-legged on the floor, pretending to eat the strange, tasteless food cubes that Drathan had given her. Around her, other children chewed in silence, but she could feel that most of them were not really eating. They were watching, listening. The guards thought children were easy to control. The guards were wrong. Jacob Mills leaned closer to Emily, whispering without moving. His lips. I saw the lock again. The big one touched the same spot 3 times. Then he swiped. Emily's eyes flicked to the control panel beside the cell door. It glowed faintly, covered in alien symbols. Can you copy it? She whispered. I think so, Jacob replied. Emily gave the smallest nod. Don't try yet. Wait until they're tired. The first disappearance, the Drathan guard known as Kor was bored. Guarding human children was hardly a warrior's work. They didn't fight, didn't even speak Drathan. They just sat there, staring. He walked the corridor, passing under the flickering white lights, his boots echoing against the metal floor. He stopped at the next junction empty. No sound but the hum of the engines. But when Kor reached the security checkpoint, his partner was gone. The console was still active. The door was still locked. But the other guard had vanished. Kor called for backup, his voice sharp. Within minutes, a search team arrived, but they found nothing. No signs of struggle. No trace of where the guard had gone. Commander Veyrick received the report. He frowned. Humans cannot escape their cell, he said flatly. Search again. This is incompetence. The whisper network. In the hours that followed, the children began to move differently. They no longer sat quietly. They shifted places in the cell, trading positions without a word. The guards didn't understand. To them, it looked like random movement, but to the children, it was a silent code. A tap on the floor meant, look left. A brush of the hand meant, move now. A nod meant, ready. Emily had never been a leader back on Earth. She was quiet, often shy. But here, something had changed. She spoke in short commands. She made decisions without hesitation. Jacob followed her lead without question. So did the others. It wasn't because they trusted her. It was because she had a look in her eyes, calm, sharp, unafraid. Alien warnings. The ship's medic, Drathan officer Vrek, examined the human specimens from behind the safety barrier. Their heart rates were unusual, not high with fear, but steady. Some even slowed when guards approached, as if they were controlling their bodies. He reported this to Veyrick. Commander, the specimens are not behaving like others we have taken. They show signs of rapid environmental adaptation. Veyrick dismissed the concern. They are children. Their small bodies cannot threaten this ship. Vrek hesitated, then added, on my homeworld, we have a saying, a small claw can still pierce the heart. Veyrick turned sharply. This is not your homeworld. Do your work. The second disappearance, 2 days into the journey, another guard vanished. This time, it happened during a shift change. The surveillance feed showed the guard walking toward the storage bay, then static. When the picture returned, the corridor was empty. No heat signatures, no life signs. Veyrick's jaw tightened. He ordered all human specimens scanned immediately. The scans showed nothing unusual, no hidden devices, no weapons. But the commander didn't like the way they looked at him through the barrier. Especially the one with dark hair, Emily. She didn't look afraid. She looked like she was measuring him. The first strike back that night, the lights in the human holding cell flickered. It was only for a few seconds, but in that time, Emily moved. She slid toward the door, her hands hidden under her knees. When the lights returned, she was sitting in the same place as before. But the small piece of metal she had taken from the food dispenser was now hidden in her sleeve. The Drathan didn't notice. Later, when the guards were talking at the far end of the corridor, she handed the metal shard to Jacob. Next time they open the door, she whispered, we start. Drathan growing fear, the crew began whispering among themselves. The humans didn't cry, they didn't scream. They didn't plead for freedom. It was unnatural. Most species the Drathan took showed signs of psychological breakdown within days. But these children only grew quieter and somehow more confident. One engineer swore he heard them laughing in the middle of the night. When he checked, they were sitting in perfect silence, staring at him until he left. Varric's mistake. Varric decided to show his dominance. He entered the holding cell himself, towering over the children. "You will not resist," he said in their language, using a crude translation device. "You belong to us now, do you understand?" The children said nothing. Emily met his gaze. No fear, no blinking. The translator hummed again as Varric's words echoed, "Fear us, or suffer." Emily tilted her head, then spoke softly. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "You shouldn't have taken us." The translator repeated the sentence in harsh Drathan tones. Several guards shifted uncomfortably. Varric left without another word. But in his chest, something cold settled, a feeling he hadn't had in years. The third disappearance, it happened in the engineering deck. A technician was checking the coolant systems when he heard a noise in the vents. He turned, frowning then. Something small and fast dropped from above. The last thing he saw was a pair of human eyes. When the crew searched, they found only his tools on the floor. No body, no blood. Varric ordered a full lockdown of the ship. But the lockdown failed in certain sections, doors refusing to seal, systems showing false readings. Whoever was doing this was learning how the ship worked. The children's meeting that night. While the guards patrolled outside, the children huddled together in the far corner of the cell. Emily drew shapes on the floor with her finger. Hallways, doors, vents. Jacob added marks where he had seen control panels. "We can't take them all at once," Emily said. "We hit them in pieces. Take what we need. Break what we can't take." A boy named Liam whispered, "What if they kill us?" Emily's voice didn't change. "Then we make sure they don't forget us." The others nodded. The plan was set. The Drathan began to break by the fourth disappearance. Panic had spread through the lower ranks. Some refused to guard the humans alone. Others asked to be reassigned to other parts of the ship. Rumors spread humans could change shape. Humans could vanish into shadows. Humans could pass through walls. Varric knew most of it was nonsense. But the fact remained, his crew was afraid. Afraid of children. The final spark on the seventh day, the alarm blared across the ship. Multiple power failures. Security cameras showing nothing but static. Engine output dropping. Varric stormed onto the bridge. "What is happening?" The answer came from the communications officer. "They are inside the ship, Commander." "They are everywhere." Varric froze. "Who?" The officer swallowed hard. "The humans." The alarms howled through the Drathan warship, sharp and metallic, echoing down every corridor. Red lights flashed across the walls. Crew members rushed in every direction, voices raised in confusion and fear. Commander Varric stood in the center of the bridge, gripping the rail. "Report!" he barked. The security chief's voice came through, trembling. "Multiple breaches in engineering and storage decks. Internal sensors are unreliable. The readings keep vanishing." "Vanishing?" Varric growled. "Explain." "They appear for a moment, small life forms, moving fast, then disappear." "Completely." Varric's jaw tightened. There was only one explanation. The humans were out of their cell. The hunt begins in the narrow maintenance corridor under the engineering deck. Jacob moved on his hands and knees. The air smelled of metal and oil. Behind him, Emily and 3 other children crawled in silence, careful not to touch the walls. They had timed their escape perfectly. During a moment of power loss in the cell, Emily had copied the guard's access pattern using the shard of metal. The door opened without a sound. From there, they slipped into the vents, small spaces too narrow for Drathan bodies. The children didn't run wildly. They moved like hunters, slow, quiet, thinking about every sound they made. Predators' eyes, Drathan culture understood predators. They had them on their homeworld, swift creatures that struck from the shadows. But those predators were animals, driven by instinct. They didn't plan. The humans were different. Engineer Threk was tightening a coolant valve when he heard faint scratching sound above him. He froze. The scratching stopped. He turned slowly, scanning the ceiling. Nothing. Then two pale eyes in the darkness, staring directly at him. Before he could shout, something small and fast dropped onto his back. He stumbled, arms flailing. As cold fingers pulled something from his utility belt, by the time he spun around, the humans were gone. And so was his security pass. Studying the ship and the vents, Emily studied the stolen pass. It was a flat black strip with glowing green edges. Jacob took it from her, running his thumb along the surface. "This opens the locked rooms," he whispered. "Not all of them, but maybe enough." They crawled to a corner where they could see through a vent grill into the engineering bay. Massive engines pulsed with blue light. Drathan workers moved between control panels, speaking in urgent tones. Emily's mind worked quickly. Engines meant power. Power meant life support, shields, weapons. If they could shut them down, she didn't finish the thought. Not yet. Varric's frustration on the bridge. Varric watched as his crew reported more malfunctions. Lights flickering in random sectors. Doors opening without commands. Supplies missing from storage. "These are children," he snarled. "How can you not catch them?" The security chief answered carefully. "They move through areas we cannot reach, and they know our patterns. Every time we change patrol routes, they are already gone." Varric slammed a clawed hand on the console. "Then change them faster." But inside, a dangerous thought formed. This was no accident. These humans were thinking ahead. The first sabotage hours later, in the darkness of a maintenance shaft. Jacob pried open a small panel. Inside, glowing cables pulsed with energy. He looked at Emily. "Which one?" She studied the colors. The Drathan had shown them, by accident, which cables carried power to the lower decks when they walked past. An open panel days ago. She pointed to the thick blue one. Jacob yanked it free. The hum of machinery around them dropped instantly. In the distance, alarms began to blare. They didn't wait to see the damage. They were already moving to the next target. Panic in the valley. Ranks when the engineering deck lost power. The crew thought it was a malfunction. But when the second deck failed minutes later, fear took over. "They're doing this," one technician whispered. "The humans." Another shook his head. "They can't. They're not strong enough." "Then explain why they are never where." "We expect them." The argument ended when the lights went out completely in their section, leaving only the red emergency glow. The medic's realization. Drathan medic Vrek was in the lab, scanning the heart rate data of the human specimens. Something didn't make sense. "Commander," he called over the comms, "I think you should see this." When Varric arrived, Vrek pointed at the screen. "Look at their readings from the day they were taken until now. Their stress levels are dropping, not rising. They are becoming calmer the longer they are here." Varric stared at the data. "That's impossible. Captives become weaker, not stronger." Vrek's voice was low. "I believe, Commander, that they are adapting to us, learning us. And they are doing it very fast." The game changes in a darkened cargo hold. Emily and the others gathered. They had food stolen from storage, tools taken from engineers, and the stolen access pass. They spoke in whispers. "We can't take the whole ship," Jacob said. "But we can make them afraid." Emily's eyes were steady. "They already are." She pointed to a schematic they had drawn on the floor with a piece of metal. "This is where the air controls are. We shut it here. They'll have to open doors to breathe. And when they open doors..." Liam grinned. "We move." The predator becomes the prey. Two guards patrolled the lower deck, muttering about how pointless it was. They turned a corner and froze. A single human child stood in the middle of the corridor. It was Emily. She didn't move. She didn't speak. She just looked at them, head tilted slightly. One guard stepped forward, too late. From the shadows on either side, Jacob and two others dropped onto them. The struggle was brief. When it was over, the guards were unconscious, their weapons gone. Emily didn't smile. "Hide them," she said simply. Varick's breaking point. By the third day of chaos, the Drathan commander was pacing like a caged beast. He had lost 5 crew members. Entire sections of the ship were offline. And his prey was still loose. "This is unacceptable," he growled. "We end this now." He ordered the humans hunted with stun rifles. Every corridor was to be swept. Every vent scanned, but as the hunt began, the reports came in. Deck 6 is empty. They just disappeared from the scanner. They were here, now they're gone. Varick slammed his fist on the console. It was as if the humans could see every move before it happened. The markings, then came something even stranger. In multiple corridors, the crew found markings on the walls drawn with stolen grease from engineering. They were maps. Maps of the ship. Every hallway, every door, every vent. Varick stared at one of the drawings in silence. It was perfect, accurate down to the smallest detail. No alien prisoner had ever done this before. "This is impossible," the security chief muttered. "They've only been here days." Varick's voice was low and cold. "No, it means they've been watching us the whole time." The turning point in the vents above the bridge, Emily listened to the Drathan talk. She didn't understand every word, but she understood enough. They were afraid. She looked at Jacob. "Time to finish it," she whispered. The final stage of their plan was ready. The alien warship hung above Earth like a silent predator. It had been there for days now, hidden behind thick clouds and cloaked from most human eyes. On the ground, fear had turned into something else. The missing children were still gone. But something strange was happening. People who had lost their sons, daughters, nieces, and nephews began reporting dreams. Not normal dreams. They all saw the same thing: children walking through endless black corridors filled with a dim red light. And in those dreams, the children were changing. In one of these dreams, a mother saw her son standing in the dark, his eyes glowing faint gold. He did not look scared. He looked awake. Inside the alien ship, the stolen human children were no longer in cages. The captors had learned the hard way that confinement was dangerous. The first child they tried to keep locked had somehow melted the metal bars overnight. The second had looked directly into the eyes of a guard, and the guard screamed until his throat tore open. So now, the aliens kept the children in a strange habitat. Artificial gardens, flowing water, simulated daylight. But even here, the crew watched them from a distance. No one got too close. One alien scientist, a tall creature with pale blue skin and insect-like eyes, walked into the observation room and hissed in frustration. "They are evolving faster than the simulations predicted," it said. Another alien, wearing a heavy breathing mask, looked at the screen showing the children playing. "They are not evolving," it replied slowly. "They are remembering." The first scientist's head twitched. "Remembering? These are juveniles, primitive. Their brains are not like ours," the second interrupted. "They carry the instincts of a predator species, and now they are waking up." Among the children was a boy named Ethan. He was only 11. But since arriving on the ship, his thoughts had grown sharper. The fear he felt on the first night was gone. Something deep inside him had switched on. He could smell things no one else noticed: the faint electric hum of the alien lights, the sharp tang of metal, the chemical scent of their food. His eyes could track movement faster. His hearing had sharpened to the point where he could hear alien guards breathing through walls. And there was something else. He could feel the thoughts of the other children. Not as words, but as pulses, waves of emotion and intent. When they looked at him, they seemed to know he was thinking the same thing they were. They were not alone. One night, Ethan sat by a pool of artificial water, watching his reflection ripple. A girl named Mia sat beside him. She was 9 small and quiet, but there was a strange intensity in her eyes. "They're afraid of us," she whispered. Ethan looked at her. "I know, they should be." Her words were calm, but something about the way she said them sent a chill through him, not because they were frightening, but because he realized he agreed. The alien crew was now holding emergency meetings every 6 hours. The children's behavior was becoming unpredictable. They had stopped asking questions. They no longer cried for home. Instead, they watched their captors. Silent, patient. One guard, trying to scare a boy into obedience, had aimed his weapon at him. The boy didn't flinch, didn't blink. The guard backed away first. "This is wrong," a younger alien engineer said. "They were supposed to be harmless for years before maturing. Something is accelerating them." "It is their environment," the lead scientist said. "The stress, the captivity, it is. Unlocking traits we did not account for." "Traits?" the engineer asked. The scientist looked grim. "Predatory traits." Back on Earth, strange reports were starting to surface. People who had touched objects belonging to the missing children began experiencing brief visions like flashes of the ship's corridors. One man claimed he heard his daughter's voice in his head telling him, "Don't come for me yet." The military didn't know what to do. Every attempt to track the alien ship failed. It was as if it existed halfway between reality and some other dimension. But now, whispers began in certain classified circles. Maybe the children didn't need rescuing. Maybe they were preparing something themselves. Inside the ship, Ethan began organizing the others without speaking. They would meet in small groups, pretending to play. But their games had rules the aliens didn't understand. They were testing boundaries, counting patrol cycles, learning where the ship's energy pulses were weakest. Mia discovered she could make alien lights flicker by concentrating hard enough. Another boy could mimic the sounds of the alien control panel so perfectly that guards turned their heads, thinking an order had been given. Every day, their abilities grew, and every day, the aliens grew more nervous. Finally, the alien commander decided to act. "We will begin neural suppression immediately," he ordered. "If we do not erase these changes now, they will become a threat to the entire crew." But it was already too late. The children had felt the decision coming before it was spoken. The moment the alien technicians entered their habitat with strange headgear and glowing restraints, Ethan and the others went still. The technicians froze in place. Their breathing slowed, then stopped. Their eyes went glassy as invisible hands gripped their minds and squeezed. Mia walked up to the nearest one and gently took the restraint from his hand. "We don't want to hurt you," she said softly. "But we will if you try again." She handed the device to Ethan, and without speaking, they knew what came next. The aliens monitoring the room were horrified. "They are using coordinated telepathic force," one stammered. "They should not even be capable of this level of communication." "They are," another said. "And now they know we fear them." The commander's voice shook. "Lock the habitat. Seal it off from the rest of the ship." But the locks failed. One by one, the metal doors slid open without a sound. The children stepped into the corridor, and for the first time, they were the hunters. By the time the alien crew understood what was happening, the children had spread out. They did not run. They moved slowly, deliberately, as if they had all the time in the world. They learned how to make the ship's systems obey them. Doors opened without a touch. Lights died in entire sections. In the observation room, the alien Scientists stared at the screens in silence. "This was our mistake," one said finally. "We thought they were prey." "They are not," the other replied. "They are the beginning of something worse." And somewhere, deep inside the ship, Ethan smiled. He didn't know how, but he felt it. The others felt it too. Their parents, far away on Earth, could sense them, could almost hear them soon. The link would be complete, and when that happened, no power in the galaxy would be able to stop what was coming next. The alien warship had been a silent terror for days above Earth, yet now it was no longer a fortress. It had become a battlefield. Deep inside, the human children moved like shadows, invisible yet everywhere. They were not afraid anymore. The fear that had gripped them on the first night had vanished. It had been replaced by something sharper, something older and stronger. Instinct. Ethan led the group, his eyes scanning the corridors ahead. He didn't need to speak. The others understood. They moved in perfect silence, their small bodies, darting through vents and maintenance shafts, learning every turn, every control panel. The aliens called it chaos. Humans called it freedom. Breaking the chains. The first obstacle was the alien security hub. The room was vast, filled with glowing panels, holographic displays, and armed guards pacing back and forth. Ethan paused at the vent above the room, peering through the grate. Mia joined him. "Too many," she whispered. Ethan shook his head. "They don't know we are coming." In the vent below, Liam, a boy of 10, held a small metal shard they had stolen from a previous guard. He tapped it against a panel, sending a low-frequency vibration through the vent. One by one, lights in the security room flickered. The guards cursed. The alarms blared. But the children did not run. They watched. They understood how the systems worked now. Jacob pressed a finger to a button hidden behind the vent. The security hub doors unlocked with a soft click. They dropped silently, landing in shadows. Before the guards could react, the children moved as one. They disarmed, incapacitated, and hid every trace of their presence. Within minutes, the hub was theirs. The alien commander realizes on the bridge. Commander Vayrick watched the systems flicker. Reports were coming in faster than his mind could process. Deck 7 unresponsive. Security breach. Life readings inconsistent. Multiple personnel missing. He slammed a clawed hand onto the console. "How can children do this? They are not ordinary humans," the security chief said. "They are predators." Vayrick turned sharply, his eyes narrowing. "They were taken as specimens," he said, voice low and dangerous. "Now they are hunting us." A hush fell over the bridge. Even the hardened officers understood the danger. They had underestimated Earth's children. Sabotage and strategy back in the lower decks. Emily had mapped the entire ship from the vantage of the security hub. She and Ethan studied the holographic displays, understanding every route, every energy source, every weak point. "We can't fight them all," she said quietly, "but we can control them, control the ship. Control the air, the lights, the doors. They'll have to obey." Ethan nodded. "They'll never expect us in the engines." In the power core, Jacob and Liam moved silently. They had already discovered which circuits controlled the secondary systems. They tapped and twisted, cutting power to strategic sections of the ship. Alarms blared, but the children's stealth allowed them to slip through the shadows. When the aliens tried to respond, doors refused to seal, lights died, and monitors displayed nothing but static. Fear spread quickly among the crew. First contact with Earth. The first tremors of change reached Earth in the form of strange signals. Military satellites picked up a ship transmitting unusual energy pulses, frequencies never before detected. Analysts could not identify the source. Then, across several towns, people reported strange phenomena. Streetlights flickered. Televisions emitted distorted images. The air seemed charged, like static before a storm. But those who understood the children's instincts Parents who had lost their kids felt something else. A presence. A signal not of fear, but of power, intelligence, and something almost human. Turning the ship inside the alien ship, Emily had accessed the engine control room. She pressed a series of panels, her small fingers moving with precision. Energy flows shifted. Shield generators weakened. Life support in sections controlled by the aliens faltered. The Drathan guards rushed in, but the children were ready. Using coordinated strikes, they disabled every weapon, every control panel they could reach. Ethan stood on the platform above the engines, watching the systems respond to their commands. "They think they control the ship," he said softly. "But now it belongs to us." The alien crew's panic was complete. Varric barked orders, but doors would not open, alarms could not be silenced, and weapons refused to fire. Alien miscalculation. V's mind raced. He had underestimated the children. They were small, fragile, but instinctive, intelligent, and united. He had assumed his species' superiority was enough to control them, but every action they took revealed his mistake. A child could move faster than any Drathan. They could mimic commands, manipulate systems, even predict the crew's responses. And they were only beginning. The awakening of instincts in one control room. Mia watched as a group of alien officers tried to override the children's commands. She raised a hand. The lights flickered. The officers froze. Their thoughts slowed. Their limbs stiffened. The children were not using weapons. They were using instincts. Something deep inside them, something evolutionary that allowed them to bend their environment to their will. Even Varric hesitated. He could feel it. Something primal, sharp and intelligent, like staring into the mind of a predator that had learned patience, strategy, and teamwork all at once. The first strike on the crew in the corridors, the children moved with deadly efficiency. They incapacitated the remaining guards with swift strikes, soft blows to sensitive nerves. Non-lethal but utterly disabling, they did not kill. Not yet. Emily and Ethan led the way, Jacob and Liam flanking the sides. Every corner, every ventilation shaft, every access point had been mapped. They used it to their advantage. By the end of the first hour, more than half the crew was neutralized. The aliens were trapped within their own ship, unable to fight back, unable to escape. Message to Earth. Then came the moment they had been waiting for. Emily accessed the communications array. The humans on Earth could barely believe what they saw. A live transmission of the children inside the alien ship, calm, confident, and in control. A voice spoke through the array. Emily's, clear and firm. "We are safe. The ship is ours. No harm comes to the innocent, but those who came for us. They will learn their mistake." Across the globe, the message spread. Fear turned into astonishment. Military officials watched in shock as the children demonstrated control of an alien vessel, a warship, capable of destroying cities, and not one child was harmed. Varric's realization. The alien commander's claws tightened on the console. "This cannot be," he muttered. "They are not like us. Not like any species we have encountered." The security chief shivered. "They are predators, not trained, not armed, but they think faster than we do, act faster than we do, and anticipate every move." Varric took a deep breath, his eyes narrowing. "They were never prey," he said. We were their mistake. The return begins with the ship under their control." The children did not linger. They directed the vessel back toward Earth's orbit. Emily and Ethan stood together on the bridge, overlooking the stars. The planet below was calm, ignorant of the storm that had passed above. Mia leaned against the console. "They will never take us again," she said. Ethan nodded. "And now they will never forget us." The alien crew, defeated and terrified, had no choice but to comply with the humans' commands. Shields lowered, weapons powered down, systems submitted. The warship that had once been a predator now returned to Earth, not as a threat, but as proof of something far greater. Humanity's instinctive power, its intelligence, and the unimaginable. Strength hidden even in its youngest members. Homecoming, the children returned to Earth quietly. No one saw the ship land. No alarms sounded. When parents finally opened doors to find their children waiting safe, unharmed, and stronger than before, they could hardly believe their eyes. Emily, Ethan, Mia, Jacob, and the others walked among the people of Havenbrook, smiling quietly. They were children again, but not quite the same. Something had awakened inside them, a power the universe had underestimated. Varick's warship now floated inert in orbit, a silent monument to the mistake his species had made. And humanity? Humanity had learned something vital. The young, the small, the underestimated could rise as monsters the galaxy had never imagined. The night the children returned, the stars themselves seemed to watch, trembling slightly at the rise of a species that refused to be prey. And somewhere, deep inside every child, a new instinct whispered, "We are not weak. We are never prey."